Why you don't need friends after 70. Embracing independence after 70, a new chapter of fulfillment. Have you ever felt that the way you view friendships has changed as you've gotten older? The social circles that once seemed essential may no longer hold the same meaning. And that's okay. Society often tells us that staying socially active is the key to happiness. But what if real joy comes from within? What if, instead of chasing friendships out of obligation, you embraced the freedom to live life on your own terms? There's a liberating truth that many people overlook. You don't need a large group of friends after 70 to live a fulfilling, meaningful life. In fact, holding on to unnecessary social ties can drain your energy, fill your time with obligations, and distract you from what truly matters: your peace, your happiness, and your personal growth. This stage of life isn't about proving yourself or keeping up appearances. It's about choosing joy over pressure, simplicity over stress, and fulfillment over forced connections. Too often, we hold on to friendships not because they bring us joy, but because we fear what life would be like without them. But what if letting go of those expectations opened the door to something greater? Imagine waking up every morning with a sense of peace, knowing that your time is yours to use however you choose. No more small talk that feels forced, no more social obligations that feel like a burden, just the freedom to spend your days exactly how you want. Whether that means pursuing hobbies, enjoying nature, or simply relishing the quiet beauty of solitude. This isn't about isolation, it's about independence. It's about redefining what happiness looks like for you in this chapter of life. The pressure to maintain friendships that no longer serve you doesn't have to dictate your choices. You have earned the right to live on your own terms, to embrace peace, to prioritize yourself, and to let go of anything that no longer adds value to your journey. In this discussion, we'll explore 6 powerful reasons why friendships are no longer a necessity after 70, and why stepping into this newfound independence can be one of the most fulfilling decisions you'll ever make. By the end, you may just find that the freedom to live for yourself isn't just empowering, it's life-changing. Let's begin. If this message resonates with you, let me know by commenting, "I'm here" below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. 1. You no longer need to prove yourself to anyone. Think back to the years you spent building your life, your career, your family, your identity. How often did you feel the need to impress others? To prove your worth through achievements, social status, or the number of friends you had? In youth, friendships often revolved around validation, being accepted, fitting in, maintaining appearances. But now, you've reached a stage where none of that matters. You are no longer defined by the opinions of others. One of the greatest freedoms of growing older is the realization that your value has never depended on external approval. You don't need a group of people around you to confirm your worth. You define that yourself. Gone are the days of seeking validation from acquaintances who may not truly care. Gone is the pressure to keep up with social expectations that no longer serve you. Instead, you now have the privilege to live life on your own terms, free from the weight of trying to meet anyone else's standards. Take Frank, for example. A former businessman in his late 60s, he spent decades networking, shaking hands, and maintaining relationships that, in hindsight, were built more on convenience than true connection. But once he retired, the calls stopped. The invitations faded. At first, he felt the urge to rekindle those connections. But then he asked himself, why chase friendships that were never truly meaningful? Instead of clinging to relationships out of habit, he turned inward. He pursued hobbies, spent time reflecting, and for the first time in years, he felt truly free. This is the power of embracing independence. You don't need to keep proving yourself to anyone. You've already done enough. Now is the time to live for yourself, to honor your own happiness, your own peace, and your own sense of fulfillment. 2. Peace becomes more valuable than socializing. In your younger years, being around people may have felt like a necessity. The laughter, the gatherings, the constant buzz of conversation, it all seemed like proof of a life well lived. But as time passes, something shifts. You begin to crave something deeper, something quieter. The noise that once filled your days now feels exhausting, and the endless cycle of social obligations starts to lose its appeal. Instead, peace, true, undisturbed peace, becomes far more valuable than filling your calendar with meaningless interactions. The truth is, even the best friendships come with responsibilities. There are calls to return, invitations to accept, and expectations to meet. But at this stage in life, do you really need all of that? Do you need to spend your precious time keeping up with conversations that no longer bring joy? The beauty of growing older is that you finally have the power to decide what serves you and what simply drains you. You no longer have to be available just because someone expects you to be. You get to choose where your energy goes. Take Linda, a 72-year-old retired nurse. For decades, her life was filled with lunch meetups, group chats, and holiday gatherings. But over time, she noticed that many of these interactions left her feeling drained rather than fulfilled. Conversations became repetitive, filled with gossip and complaints. One day, she made a choice. She stopped feeling guilty for saying no. She stepped away from social expectations and embraced solitude. And in that space, she found something she never expected: freedom. Are you finding these insights valuable? If so, type yes in the comments and let's continue this journey together. This is the gift of this stage in life: the ability to choose peace over pressure, calm over chaos. You are not withdrawing from the world. You are simply creating space for what truly fulfills you. And in that quiet, you will find a joy deeper than any social gathering could ever provide. 3. Fewer friendships mean fewer disappointments. One of the hardest lessons in life is realizing that not everyone who calls themselves a friend is truly there for you. Over the years, you've likely experienced friendships that faded, people who drifted away when you needed them most, and relationships that turned out to be one-sided. And by the time you reach this stage in life, you come to an important realization: the fewer friendships you have, the fewer disappointments you will face. Friendships, no matter how deep, come with expectations. There's the expectation to call, to check in, to be present when needed. But what happens when those expectations aren't met? Disappointment. You reach out, but they don't call back. You put in effort, but it's not reciprocated. And slowly, you start to see that some friendships were never truly built on mutual care. They were built on habit, convenience, or obligation. And at this point in life, you don't need that kind of stress. Take George, a 75-year-old former coach. For years, he was the one keeping old friendships alive, making the phone calls, organizing get-togethers, remembering birthdays. But when he stopped initiating, he was met with silence. At first, it hurt. He wondered what he had done wrong. But then he realized the truth. He wasn't the one who had changed. He had simply stopped tolerating friendships that weren't mutual. Instead of mourning those lost connections, he embraced a new mindset: quality over quantity. This is the power of choosing simplicity over obligation. When you stop chasing friendships that don't serve you, you free yourself from frustration and unmet expectations. You don't have to feel let down when people don't show up for you. You can simply focus on the people who truly matter. And sometimes, the best relationship you can invest in is the one you have with yourself. 4. Your time becomes more precious. Time, something we once took for granted, suddenly becomes the most valuable thing we own. When you were younger, it felt like time was endless. There was always another day, another event, another chance to fit everything in. But as the years pass, You begin to see time for what it truly is, a gift that must be spent wisely. And that means being selective about how and with whom you invest it. Friendships, even the good ones, require effort. There are calls to return, plans to make, and obligations to uphold. But ask yourself, is this truly how I want to spend my time? Is maintaining a social routine out of habit more important than doing the things that genuinely bring you joy? The beauty of this stage in life is that you finally have the freedom to decide. You no longer have to waste your precious hours on superficial connections. You get to choose what truly enriches your life. Take Eleanor, an 80-year-old artist who once filled her days with social events. She said yes to every invitation, returned every call, and kept up with every acquaintance. But over time, those interactions began to feel more like obligations than sources of joy. One day, she made a decision. No more wasting time on things that didn't fulfill her. She cut back on unnecessary commitments, spent more time painting, walking, and learning new things. And for the first time in years, she felt fully in control of her own time. This is your time. Use it well. You've spent decades meeting others' expectations, fulfilling responsibilities, and keeping up with social circles. But now, you have the right to prioritize what truly makes you happy. Don't let anyone else decide how you should spend your time. This chapter of life belongs to you. If you relate to this, don't hesitate to share your story in the comments. Your words might inspire someone else. 5. True companionship comes from within. For most of your life, you were told that happiness comes from the people around you, that being social, having a large circle of friends, and staying connected was the key to fulfillment. But as you've grown older, you've come to a powerful realization. True companionship doesn't come from the number of people in your life. It comes from the relationship you have with yourself. There is a difference between being alone and being lonely. Some of the happiest people in their later years are those who have learned to enjoy their own company. They no longer rely on others to fill their time, to validate their existence, or to entertain them. Instead, they have discovered the deep joy of solitude, of living life by their own rhythm, embracing their thoughts, and finding peace in quiet moments. This kind of self-connection is more valuable than any superficial friendship. Take Walter, a 74-year-old retired carpenter. For years, he filled his days with social events, group gatherings, and small talk, believing that staying busy meant staying happy. But despite being constantly surrounded by people, he often felt drained and disconnected. One day, he made a change. Instead of chasing social validation, he started investing in himself. He took long walks alone, pursued hobbies he had set aside, and spent time in deep reflection. And in that solitude, he found something he had never experienced before: true contentment. This is the greatest freedom of aging, the ability to find joy within yourself. When you stop looking outward for happiness and start looking inward, you unlock a level of peace and fulfillment that no group of friends can provide. You are your own best company, and when you embrace that, you'll realize you were never truly alone to begin with. 6. Letting go opens the door to a more fulfilling life. There comes a point in life when you realize that holding on to what no longer serves you is more exhausting than letting go. We often maintain friendships out of habit, answering calls we don't want to take, attending gatherings that feel like a chore, and keeping relationships alive simply because we always have. But what if you gave yourself permission to release these burdens? What if letting go wasn't the end, but the beginning of something greater? Many people fear that stepping away from friendships means isolation, but the truth is, letting go creates space for what truly matters. It allows you to reclaim your time, focus on your passions, and surround yourself only with the people and experiences that bring genuine joy. Instead of clinging to relationships that feel forced, You can prioritize what makes you feel alive, whether that's learning something new, traveling, or simply enjoying the peace of your own presence. Take Alice, a woman in her late 70s who once believed that staying socially active was the key to happiness. She filled her days with endless phone calls, lunches, and obligations. But deep down, she felt unfulfilled. One day, she made a decision. She stopped saying yes out of guilt and started saying yes to herself. She stepped back from draining friendships and instead embraced the freedom of doing what truly made her happy. And in doing so, she found something she never expected. Not loneliness, but peace. Letting go isn't about shutting yourself off from the world. It's about choosing what deserves your energy. It's about realizing that your happiness isn't tied to maintaining old connections, but to creating a life that feels right for you. Once you embrace this truth, you'll discover that the most fulfilling life is the one lived on your own terms. The freedom to live on your own terms. Embrace life with purpose and peace. Reaching this stage in life is not about loneliness. It's about freedom. It's about letting go of unnecessary expectations, choosing peace over pressure, and embracing the life you truly want to live. The idea that you need a large group of friends to be happy is a myth. True fulfillment doesn't come from keeping up with social obligations. It comes from aligning your life with what truly brings you joy, peace, and purpose. You've spent decades building relationships, proving yourself, and meeting the needs of others. But now, this chapter belongs to you. You no longer have to force conversations, entertain draining friendships, or feel guilty for prioritizing yourself. Instead, you have the chance to wake up each day knowing that your time is yours, your choices are yours, and your happiness is defined only by you. What if, instead of clinging to relationships out of habit, you embraced the beauty of solitude? What if you allowed yourself to fully enjoy the quiet, to reconnect with your passions, and to find fulfillment in simply being present with yourself? Letting go of certain friendships doesn't mean isolating yourself. It means making space for what truly nourishes your soul. It's about valuing your peace over pressure, quality over quantity, and inner contentment over external validation. Consider this. How would your life look if you focused only on what truly matters? If you spent your time doing the things that bring you genuine happiness, instead of trying to keep up with expectations that no longer serve you. This is your time to choose what fills your days, to read, to create, to explore, to rest, to embrace every moment without the weight of unnecessary obligations. You were never meant to live for the approval of others. You were meant to live freely, joyfully, and on your own terms. The greatest companionship you will ever have is the one with yourself. When you fully embrace that truth, you'll realize something powerful. You were never truly alone. You've always had yourself, and that is more than enough. So, as you move forward, do so with confidence. Let go of what no longer serves you. Cherish what brings you joy. And most importantly, live fully, freely, and without regrets. The best years of your life aren't behind you. They are right here, waiting for you to embrace them. This is your time. Make the most of it. If this video gave you a new perspective, let me know by liking and subscribing. And don't forget to hit the bell so you never miss our next discussion, because your journey matters.